Chapter 1 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The Smart Cultivation System is at your service. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. As the sun began to set, Pei Ling returned to the Pei residence. Most of the servants he encountered along the way pretended not to see him and busied themselves. When he was about to leave the area of the main courtyard, a servant girl stopped him. Madame said that the disciples of the holy sect staying in the residence for the time being like the pastries made from colorless Ganoderma. I'll trouble you to find more in Yuanlao Mountain tomorrow. When the time comes, Madame will reward you handsomely. I understand. The servant girl's cavalier attitude was apparent, but Pei Ling thought nothing of it. He was satisfied with his status in this massive manor, just like the courtyard he was living in now. It was remote, inconspicuous, quiet, and no one cared about it. Of course, no one served him. Even if he killed someone in the middle of the day and burned the corpse to eliminate the evidence, no one would discover it here. After all, it was no longer popular to be reckless. The big shots were all keeping a low profile. Stability was the way to go. He was very experienced in this aspect. After all, in his previous life, Pei Ling was a steady person, cowardice. In addition, the world he had transmigrated into in this life was not a harmonious society. It was a world of cultivation, a strange place, with demon beasts in the wild. Although the family that his current body was from had some influence, as the subordinate of the demonic overlord of the deep-sea sect, who could massacre 1,500 kilometers away with a word and a blow, he felt that his future was unfathomable. Therefore, he had developed the habit of reflecting on himself 3 times a day. Did I slack off today? Can I be more careful and slack even more? What other slacking methods can I employ? With this cautiousness, Pei Ling, who transmigrated as a fetus, finally grew up steadily until now in an environment where his mother had died early, his father was a scumbag, his stepmother was jealous, and dark undercurrents were brewing in the large clan. Yes, he even secretly developed the boon of a transmigrator. System. After entering the small courtyard where he lived alone, Pei Ling immediately locked the door. After strictly checking that all the doors and windows were closed and confirming that no one had entered the room, nor was there any eavesdropping monitoring, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He suppressed his excitement and called out in his mind, I have already gathered the spirit stones needed to activate it. Activate it now. Ding-dong, with a crisp notification, a translucent panel that only he could see slowly surfaced in front of him. Name. Pei Ling. Race. Human gender. Male age. 18 status. Disciple of the Pei clan side branch in Deer Spring City stage. Level 2 of the Qi refinement stage system status. Not active. A neutral voice without any emotion sounded in Pei Ling's mind and solemnly confirmed, enough spirit stones to activate the system detected. Host, may I ask if the system is allowed to absorb them immediately to activate the system? Pei Ling took a deep breath. Yes. The 300 low-grade spirit stones that he had thought of every means possible to even deduct from his cultivation since he was a child were instantly swept clean by an invisible force. Meanwhile, gorgeous flames surged out from the panel in front of him, and the characters flashed crazily. A moment later, the interface became clear again, and the system's voice seemed to contain a tinge of joy. The Smart Cultivation System is at your service. Enjoy one-click management, smart upgrades, and fully automated cultivation. No more accidents, no more inner demons. I shall fulfill your dream of ascending. Immediately, the system activation, at the bottom of the panel changed silently, and soon, it was replaced with a new interface. There were 5 choices in the new interface. Select technique, select magic, select magical power, select duration, and the final, one-click cultivation. A rare tinge of excitement appeared in Pei Ling's usually calm mood. He could not wait to use his mind to press down on select technique. Please choose the cultivation technique you wish to cultivate, the system's voice sounded again. Then, the three words, Bone Forging Art, appeared in the system interface. This was the Pei family's cultivation technique and the only cultivation technique he could choose currently. The Pei family's bone forging art was divided into three stages: iron bone, essence bone, and jade bone. Once the iron bone was formed, it was invulnerable to swords and spears. The fist was like a heavy hammer, the palm was like a blade, which could tear apart tigers and wolves. However, this cultivation technique came from a fiend sect as the process had a distinct demonic style. Every time one cultivated, he would have to break all the bones in his body and shatter them. Then, he would use the bone forging art to refine the broken bones and combine them again to achieve the goal of increasing toughness. If one's heart was not strong enough, they would often be unable to withstand the pain of their bones breaking the first time they cultivated the bone forging art and would give up halfway. Some with poor qualifications who cultivated it would even die from the pain in the process. It could be said that every cultivator who cultivated the bone forging art had excellent talent and character. Of course, this was only a normal cultivation method. If the technique was cultivated together with the use of the bone tempering pill, not only would the pain be greatly reduced, it could also be cultivated twice as fast with half the effort. However, the bone tempering pill could only be refined by the Deep Sea sect. With the Pei clan's influence, they were only allocated 10 bone tempering pills a year. As the backbone of the clan, the Pei family head naturally took 5. The 3 elders each took 1, and the eldest son took 1. As for Pei Ling, he had not even seen what the bone tempering pill looked like. Therefore, without the use of bone tempering pills, for Pei Ling to be able to cultivate half a body of iron bones all these years, and to cultivate to the second level of the Qi refinement stage, proved his exceptional talent and unwavering determination. Under normal circumstances, one complete cultivation of the bone forging art, without the cooperation of the bone tempering pill, would require at least 3 months, even with the nourishment of many herbs. If you are too impatient, your body will not be able to withstand it and it will only have the opposite effect. Pei Ling rubbed his hands excitedly. However, I have the system now. He eagerly wanted to know the cultivation effects of this system. Therefore, after choosing the cultivation technique, he immediately clicked on Select Duration. He originally planned on choosing a shorter time to experience it, but the top choice was 1 year, followed by 10 years, 100 years. Pei Ling was speechless. There was only a temporary cultivation, smart duration, at the bottom. This allowed Pei Ling to heave a sigh of relief. He immediately chose this, then clicked on Click Cultivation. The smart cultivation system is at your service. After the interface flashed twice, it gradually faded away, and the system's voice returned to its normal tone. Enjoy Click management and smart upgrades. Now, you can begin the managed cultivation. A gentle reminder. During the cultivation period, the host will lose control of the body. Please do not panic. Immediately, Pei Ling felt slight dizziness. Immediately after, an invisible force poured into his body, rapidly arranging his body into a cultivation position. Right after that, his dantian heated up slightly as the bone forging art automatically circulated. All the bones in his body felt a sharp pain before they began to break down bit by bit. Under the circulation of the bone forging art, they vibrated at a high speed and rapidly metabolized. Meanwhile, the pores all over his body opened up, and many of the impurities in his body were expelled during this process. The entire cultivation process was smooth, skilled, and even revealed a sense of natural harmony. Compared to his previous training, he had to divide his attention to multi-task. If he was careless, he would be seriously injured and on the verge of death. The system's supervision was simply an enjoyment. This system was simply too suitable for a slacker like him. It was simply a masterpiece of conscience. Just as Pei Ling was overjoyed, the system suddenly made a ding-dong sound. Immediately, the translucent panel reappeared. Bone tempering pills are missing for cultivation. Please wait a moment, please wait a moment, please wait a moment. The system actually requires the bone tempering pill for one-click cultivation. Where am I supposed to get the bone tempering pills for the system? Ding dong. The system notified again, and the words on the interface changed. Analysis complete, the system will give you 10 bone tempering pills for free. So good. Pei Ling could not help but feel energized. Just as anticipation built, his body suddenly stood up. His body walked out the door without hesitation. He was momentarily stunned. Then, he watched as his body rushed out of the small courtyard at a speed that far exceeded his current cultivation level. Like a shadow, he rushed into the Pei family's jade parasol compound in a few seconds. At this moment, Pei Ling finally reacted. It was the jade parasol compound. It was the residence of the disciples of the Deep Sea sect. They were important guests that the entire Pei family had to host carefully. What the? Chapter 2. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The smart cultivation system is at your service. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. As the sun began to set, Pei Ling returned to the Pei residence. Most of the servants he encountered along the way pretended not to see him and busied themselves. When he was about to leave the area of the main courtyard, a servant girl stopped him. Madame said that the disciples of the holy sect staying in the residence for the time being like the pastries made from colorless Ganoderma. I'll trouble you to find more in Yuanlao Mountain tomorrow. When the time comes, Madame will reward you handsomely. I understand. The servant girl's cavalier attitude was apparent, but Pei Ling thought nothing of it. He was satisfied with his status in this massive manor, just like the courtyard he was living in now. It was remote, inconspicuous, quiet, and no one cared about it. Of course, no one served him. Even if he killed someone in the middle of the day and burned the corpse to eliminate the evidence, no one would discover it here. After all, it was no longer popular to be reckless. The big shots were all keeping a low profile. Stability was the way to go. He was very experienced in this aspect. After all, in his previous life, Pei Ling was a steady person, cowardice. In addition, the world he had transmigrated into in this life was not a harmonious society. It was a world of cultivation, a strange place, with demon beasts in the wild. Although the family that his current body was from had some influence, as the subordinate of the demonic overlord of the Deep Sea sect, who could massacre 1,500 kilometers away with a word and a blow, he felt that his future was unfathomable. Therefore, he had developed the habit of reflecting on himself 3 times a day. Did I slack off today? Can I be more careful and slack even more? What other slacking methods can I employ? With this cautiousness, Pei Ling, who transmigrated as a fetus, finally grew up steadily until now in an environment where his mother had died early, his father was a scumbag, his stepmother was jealous, and dark undercurrents were brewing in the large clan. Yes, he even secretly developed the boon of a transmigrator. System. After entering the small courtyard where he lived alone, Pei Ling immediately locked the door. After strictly checking that all the doors and windows were closed and confirming that no one had entered the room, nor was there any eavesdropping monitoring, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He suppressed his excitement and called out in his mind, I have already gathered the spirit stones needed to activate it. Activate it now. Ding-dong, with a crisp notification, a translucent panel that only he could see slowly surfaced in front of him. Name. Pei Ling. Race. Human gender. Male age. 18 status. Disciple of the Pei clan side branch in Deer Spring City stage. Level 2 of the Qi refinement stage system status. Not active. A neutral voice without any emotion sounded in Pei Ling's mind and solemnly confirmed, enough spirit stones to activate the system detected. Host, may I ask if the system is allowed to absorb them immediately to activate the system? Pei Ling took a deep breath. Yes. The 300 low-grade spirit stones that he had thought of every means possible to even deduct from his cultivation since he was a child were instantly swept clean by an invisible force. Meanwhile, gorgeous flames surged out from the panel in front of him, and the characters flashed crazily. A moment later, the interface became clear again, and the system's voice seemed to contain a tinge of joy. The smart cultivation system is at your service. Enjoy one-click management, smart upgrades, and fully automated cultivation. No more accidents, no more inner demons. I shall fulfill your dream of ascending. Immediately, the system activation at the bottom of the panel changed silently, and soon, it was replaced with a new interface. There were 5 choices in the new interface. Select technique, select magic, select magical power, select duration, and the final, one-click cultivation. A rare tinge of excitement appeared in Pei Ling's usually calm mood. He could not wait to use his mind to press down on select technique. Please choose the cultivation technique you wish to cultivate, the system's voice sounded again. Then, the 3 words, bone forging art, appeared in the system interface. This was the Pei family's cultivation technique and the only cultivation technique he could choose currently. The Pei family's bone forging art was divided into 3 stages. Iron bone, essence bone, and jade bone. Once the iron bone was formed, it was invulnerable to swords and spears. The fist was like a heavy hammer, the palm was like a blade, which could tear apart tigers and wolves. However, this cultivation technique came from a fiend sect as the process had a distinct demonic style. Every time one cultivated, he would have to break all the bones in his body and shatter them. Then, he would use the bone forging art to refine the broken bones and combine them again to achieve the goal of increasing toughness. If one's heart was not strong enough, they would often be unable to withstand the pain of their bones breaking the first time they cultivated the bone forging art and would give up halfway. Some with poor qualifications who cultivated it would even die from the pain in the process. It could be said that every cultivator who cultivated the bone forging art had excellent talent and character. Of course, this was only a normal cultivation method. If the technique was cultivated together with the use of the bone tempering pill, not only would the pain be greatly reduced, it could also be cultivated twice as fast with half the effort. However, the bone tempering pill could only be refined by the Deep Sea sect. With the Pei clan's influence, they were only allocated 10 bone tempering pills a year. As the backbone of the clan, the Pei family head naturally took 5. The 3 elders each took 1, and the eldest son took 1. As for Pei Ling, he had not even seen what the bone tempering pill looked like. Therefore, without the use of bone tempering pills, for Pei Ling to be able to cultivate half a body of iron bones all these years, and to cultivate to the 2nd level of the Qi refinement stage, proved his exceptional talent and unwavering determination. Under normal circumstances, one complete cultivation of the bone forging art, without the cooperation of the bone tempering pill, would require at least 3 months, even with the nourishment of many herbs. If you are too impatient, your body will not be able to withstand it and it will only have the opposite effect. Pei Ling rubbed his hands excitedly. However, I have the system now. He eagerly wanted to know the cultivation effects of this system. Therefore, after choosing the cultivation technique, he immediately clicked on Select Duration. He originally planned on choosing a shorter time to experience it, but the top choice was 1 year, followed by 10 years, 100 years. Pei Ling was speechless. There was only a temporary cultivation, smart duration, at the bottom. This allowed Pei Ling to heave a sigh of relief. He immediately chose this, then clicked on one-click cultivation. The smart cultivation system is at your service. After the interface flashed twice, it gradually faded away, and the system's voice returned to its normal tone. Enjoy one-click management and smart upgrades. Now, you can begin the managed cultivation. A gentle reminder. During the cultivation period, the host will lose control of the body. Please do not panic. Immediately, Pei Ling felt slight dizziness. Immediately after, an invisible force poured into his body, rapidly arranging his body into a cultivation position. Right after that, his dantian heated up slightly as the bone-forging art automatically circulated. All the bones in his body felt a sharp pain before they began to break down bit by bit. Under the circulation of the bone-forging art, they vibrated at a high speed and rapidly metabolized. Meanwhile, the pores all over his body opened up, and many of the impurities in his body were expelled during this process. The entire cultivation process was smooth, skilled, and even revealed a sense of natural harmony. Compared to his previous training, he had to divide his attention to multi-task. If he was careless, he would be seriously injured and on the verge of death. The system's supervision was simply an enjoyment. This system was simply too suitable for a slacker like him. It was simply a masterpiece of conscience. Just as Pei Ling was overjoyed, the system suddenly made a ding-dong sound. Immediately, the translucent panel reappeared. Bone tempering pills are missing for cultivation. Please wait a moment, please wait a moment, please wait a moment. The system actually requires the bone tempering pill for one-click cultivation. Where am I supposed to get the bone tempering pills for the system? Ding dong. The system notified again, and the words on the interface changed. Analysis complete, the system will give you 10 bone tempering pills for free. So good. Pei Ling could not help but feel energized. Just as anticipation built, his body suddenly stood up. His body walked out the door without hesitation. He was momentarily stunned. Then, he watched as his body rushed out of the small courtyard at a speed that far exceeded his current cultivation level. Like a shadow, he rushed into the Pei family's jade parasol compound in a few seconds. At this moment, Pei Ling finally reacted. It was the jade parasol compound. It was the residence of the disciples of the Deep Sea sect. They were important guests that the entire Pei family had to host carefully. What the? Chapter 3 You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. 1. Click Management, Get Killed Online Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios System. Stop. This is not a place I should enter. Pei Ling hurriedly shouted in his heart. As a powerhouse of the demonic path, the Deep Sea sect had always been tyrannical and ferocious. The Pei family might be influential in Deer Spring City and could call for wind and rain, but in the eyes of the Deep Sea sect, the entire Pei family was merely an ant. He had heard many such rumors before. A certain young master's entire family was annihilated in a night because he did not greet a disciple of the Deep Sea sect. The skin of his entire family was peeled off and hung on a tree. A disciple of the Deep Sea sect took a fancy to a certain family's young miss. A certain family did not take the initiative to send the young miss to the other party's door. Their entire family had their blood essence sucked dry by that disciple of the Deep Sea sect. The most terrifying thing was that everyone, including Deer Spring City, believed that it was not the disciples of the Heavy Sea sect who were in the wrong, but those families. The reason? It was simple. Being weak was the original sin. The weak were prey to the strong. For the Deep Sea sect, after generations of domination, regardless of whether they joined a sect, most of the people here had already accepted the values of the sect from the bottom of their hearts, and they got used to it. It was apparent how dangerous this jade parasol compound was right now. Seeing that the system remained passive, Pei Ling's entire consciousness was about to split open. F***ck, I don't want you to cultivate anymore. Stop. F***ck me. Did you hear me? Perhaps sensing his breakdown, the system gave a thoughtful, ding-dong sound. The smart cultivation system is at your service with all its might. Enjoy 1. Click management and smart cultivation. Pei Ling wanted to vomit blood. He could not control his body and could only watch as the system controlled his body to rush to the upper room on the west side of the Jade Parasol compound. The person living here was the Deep Sea Sect's Jingshan. 2 disciples of the Deep Sea Sect had come to Deer Spring City this time and were invited by the eldest son Pei Hongyan to stay at the foot of the Jade Parasol compound. One of them had never appeared in public before, and no one knew of his appearance, cultivation, or temperament. As for Jingshan, he had a high cultivation level. As outstanding as his cultivation level, he was infamous for his viciousness. It was said that to compete for the position of inner sect master, he had not hesitated to kill his father, extract his soul, and refine it into a bloodline divine power that was far more powerful than usual. He had become famous amongst the internal sect. Bang! The next moment, Pei Ling helplessly watched as he kicked open the door of Jingshan's room and strutted in. Damn it! Pei Ling felt his vision go dark as he roared in his mind, "System. Are you King unsatisfied with me and want to change to a new host?" His thoughts ran wild, hoping to regain control of his body. However, the system was unmoved, and his struggles were apparently useless. At this moment, Pei Ling received a grim reminder that he had lived in fear of artificial retards in his previous life. The system directed his body to quickly circle the screen at the door. Inside was an extremely spacious room with beautiful furnishings. There was a beaded curtain hanging at the carved moon gate that led to the inner room. At the moment it was shaking slightly, emitting a pleasant sound. "Sis," while Pei Ling did not give up to advise the system to calm down, he suddenly felt that someone was staring at him at the door. Jingshan. Pei Ling could not help but be shocked. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong, as there seemed to be more than one person watching from behind. Moreover, if Jingshan were here, knowing this infamous disciple's temper and cultivation, Pei Ling would probably have died on the spot the moment he entered the room. After all, he had transmigrated from a prosperous, democratic, civilized, and harmonious society to this world. He had relied on his perseverance to cultivate the bone-forging art to the stage of having half his body made of iron. Although he was caught off guard by this system's functions, he quickly calmed down at such a critical moment. "System, what's behind me?" The system did not react to his call at all. It controlled his body to quickly walk to a corner, and its target was clear. It opened one of the boxes randomly scattered on the ground. It took out a porcelain bottle and poured out 10 grayish-white pills. These were the bone-tempering pills. Ding-dong, 10 bone-tempering pills have been gifted to you. The smart system will continue your cultivation. You call this a freaking gift. Not gifting my head away. Pei Ling wanted to vomit blood. Immediately after, an even more terrifying scene occurred. His body had no intention of leaving at all. He merely turned around and walked to a futon not far away. His body then assumed a cultivation posture and swallowed all 10 bone-tempering pills before circulating the bone-forging art. This position coincidentally allowed Pei Ling to see the door. The system did not even shut the door. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Hey system, did you hear that? Son of a bitch. But soon, he did not have the time to care about the door because he discovered the source of the stares. The screen at the door. The translucent screen was embroidered with more than 100 beautiful women who were elegant and lifelike. They were plump, slender, and stunningly beautiful. They either held fans, butterflies, pipa, Chinese lute, zither strings, branches, or foxes, all with different gestures. However, no matter what they were doing, their gazes were fixated on Pei Ling. Under normal circumstances, attracting the attention of such a beauty, not to mention all of these beauties were at the highest level of any beauty standards, any straight man would not reject such luck with women. The only problem was that these beauties were not normal. Although they were figures embroidered on a screen, the feeling of being stared at by a real person was almost tangible. Even though Pei Ling could not control his body now, he could feel a chill down his spine. The deep-sea sect, a fiendish sect, was indeed mysterious. Although he did not know the problem with this screen, it was clear that it was not easy to deal with. If it were him, he would have long turned around and left, walking away as far as possible. No, if he had known the method of this mentally challenged system, he would not have given it any chance to control him to enter Jingshan's room in the first place. Now, he could only hope that Jingshan would give some face to his junior brother as a guest invited by Pei Hongnian. And that he had left some means to restrict this screen so that it would not injure the people of the Pei family. Thinking of this, Pei Ling turned the attention back to himself. He discovered that after consuming the bone-tempering pill, the circulation of the bone-forging art was over 10 times faster than before. Moreover, the rooms that the Pei family used to host their esteemed guests had special formations. The spiritual energy here was much richer than in Pei Ling's place. He could clearly sense that his cultivation was rapidly increasing at an unprecedented rate. Time passed bit by bit. Pei Ling was gradually immersed in the pleasure of continuously increasing his strength. Especially with the noise of metal clashing, all the muscles and bones in his body trembled. His pores opened up and a layer of dark red filth that was like fatty oil was expelled. In the next moment, Pei Ling felt that he had broken through a barrier. It was as if his entire body had broken free from some sort of restraint, and he had endless strength. It was as if he could punch a giant hole in the stone wall of the room if he wanted. Ding dong. At the same time, Pei Ling regained control of his body. A system notification sounded in his ear. This cultivation session has been completed. Thank you for using the smart cultivation system. You have ascended without a worry with a single click. I look forward to you sharing your cultivation evaluation. If you are satisfied, please give me a 5-star rating. A panel appeared, and the 5 familiar stars waited for the host to select. The iron bone is complete at the 3rd level of Qi refinement. Pei Ling was shocked and even forgot that he was not in his room right now. He was overwhelmed with emotions. He began to train his body at the age of 5. When he was 8, the elders tested his potential and taught him the bone-forging art. Not long after, he opened his meridians to draw in Qi and became a cultivator at the 1st level of Qi refinement. In terms of talent, he was one of the most outstanding descendants of the Pei family in this generation, comparable to Pei Hongnian. It was just that the descendants of the branch family had few resources and were suppressed by the stepmother. In addition, the cultivation of the bone-forging art was too vicious. He also had to save up spirit stones to activate the system. During the entire cultivation process, he couldn't even bear to use the nourishing herbs. He could only rely on his own recovery ability to endure it forcefully. Therefore, he had spent a full 10 years before reaching the 2nd level of Qi refinement 2 months ago. It was already considered above average among his peers in Deer Spring City. And now, this system had only helped him cultivate for a few hours, but it was able to refine his iron body from the 2nd level Qi refinement to the 3rd level Qi refinement. It was no wonder that predecessors once said that it would be satisfying for a while when you cheat once, but it will always be satisfying when you cheat all the time. At this moment, Pei Ling clenched his fists slightly. As he felt the great power in his body, he suddenly felt that the system did not seem as detestable as before. However, the gazes from the screen still made him uncomfortable. Pei Ling frowned. He did not think too much and quickly stood up to leave. On the way out, he passed by the screen. Although he tried his best to keep a distance, he saw from the corner of his eye that there were still a few beauties that stretched out their hands as if they wanted to tug at his clothes. Fortunately, their arms had just extended out a foot from the screen when they encountered an invisible barrier. They let out a delicate cry, as if they were in pain, and withdrew reluctantly. Although they could not touch Pei Ling, the gazes of all the beauties never left him. When Pei Ling climbed over the wall and left the Jade Parasol compound, he could still feel that more than 100 people were quietly and attentively watching his back. He did not know why, but even as the feeling of being watched gradually disappeared after Pei Ling walked away, he still had a faint premonition that he had caused huge trouble. I can't stay in the Pei residence anymore. I must leave immediately. Pei Ling's heart sank. He could not care less about his concern about the screen. The system's way of gifting was too costly. Although he did not encounter Jing Jingshan on the spot, this person was highly skilled in the demonic path after all. Who knew if he had any means to discover his infiltration and theft? If he continued to stay in the Pei residence, he would not stand a chance if Jing Jingshan came for him. The most important matter at hand was to flee miles away to avoid the upcoming calamity immediately. As he recited the Go mantra, Pei Ling conveniently gave the system a 1-star rating. He decided to pack up quickly and escape once he returned. However, after he returned to his residence and packed his luggage as quickly as possible, he did not have the chance to leave the Pei residence. A manservant saw him and shouted, "Seventh young master, the family head wants all the young masters and young miss to make a trip to the main hall now." Chapter 4. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Stay calm. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, why does the family head want us to go to the main hall all of the sudden? Pei Ling frowned. He was only a member of a branch family, and he was the type that neither his father nor his mother loved. Since his childhood, he could count the number of occasions of meeting the family head on the fingers of one hand. Yes, seventh young master. The manservant was in a hurry to inform the next young master. As he turned around, he hurriedly said, "Immortal Master Zheng came back from the outside and told the family head to do so. You'd better go over as soon as possible. Immortal Master Zheng seems to be in a bad mood." Pei Ling's heart shook as he quickly calculated the possibility of continuing to escape. Unfortunately, chances of survival were essentially zero. Although he had just advanced to the third stage Qi refinement realm and could kill lions and tigers, even the Pei family could easily end him, much less the disciples of the Deep Sea sect. The key was that the Pei family had strict family rules. When the family head summoned someone, experts would immediately come to check on the person for punishment if he failed to show up within 5 minutes. In particular, this gathering was for Jing Jingshan. In order to not lose face in front of the Chongming sect, the Pei family would only be quicker to act. If he fled now, he might not even be able to get out of the Pei family's door. Don't panic. Pei Ling calmed down and analyzed calmly. If Jing Jingshan knew that I entered his room and stole the bone-tempering pills, he would probably have asked the Pei family to capture or even kill me on the spot instead of just sending a manservant to summon me. With this thought, he stopped the manservant, who had already walked some distance. Did Immortal Master Zheng go to the main hall right after he returned? He didn't go back to the Jade Parasol compound to rest. No, the manservant shook his head and urged him again, "Seventh young master, please hurry up and go over. Don't make the Immortal Master wait anymore. Otherwise, the family head might not let you off easily." Pei Ling quickly weighed up the pros and cons. "Okay, I'll go now." A moment later, in the Pei family's main hall. The family head, Pei Xian, was sitting upright. The eldest son, Pei Hongnian, was standing by the side. While at the foot sat 3 elders. Everyone had solemn expressions on their faces. At the host's seat was a handsome young man. He was the inner sect disciple of the Deep Sea sect, Jing Jingshan. After Pei Ling entered to pay his respects to the family head, Pei Xian waved his hand casually, indicating for him to retreat to the side like the others and wait for instructions. From the beginning to the end, no one paid much attention to him. The indifference finally allowed Pei Ling to feel a little safer as a slacker in the dark. Obviously, Jing Jingshan did not know about the Jade Parasol courtyard yet. This is great. Pei Ling breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly adjusted his expression. Like the surrounding Pei family disciples, he sized up the 5 people in front with curious and reverent gazes. The cultivation realms in this world were divided into the Qi refinement stage, the foundation establishment stage, the core formation stage. The Qi refinement stage was divided into the first to the 9th level. After the 9th level, it was the foundation establishment stage. The foundation establishment stage had 3 stages. The early stage, the middle stage, the late stage, and finally, the core formation stage. As for the realms above the core formation stage, there were no records of it in the Pei family's school at all. After all, in Deer Spring City, there was not even a single foundation establishment stage expert. The number 1 expert on the surface was Pei Xian, who was at the 7th level of the Qi refinement stage. The eldest son, Pei Hongyan, who the family had high expectations of and had spent ample resources to send him into the outer sect of the Deep Sea sect, was only at the 4th level of the Qi refinement stage. As for the 2 disciples from the Deep Sea sect, Zheng Jingshan was young, but he was already in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. In other words, as long as Zheng Jingshan wanted to, he could slaughter the entire Deer Spring City alone. Therefore, it was no wonder that the entire Pei family did not dare to treat this person shabbily. Pei Ling was thinking about the purpose of gathering the Pei family's disciples on this occasion when he suddenly sensed someone looking at him with hostility from afar. He subconsciously looked over and saw his younger brother, Pei Tu, glaring at him fiercely. Is there a problem with my way of slacking off today? Pei Ling was puzzled. Although he had never had a good relationship with his cheap brother, ever since he became marginalized in the family, his stepmother and stepbrother felt that they had already trampled on him and would ignore him no matter where he went, so why would they show clear hostility? Pei Ling thought with a heavy heart. Or did I get full of myself without realizing it after activating the system? He was carefully reflecting on his performances during this period and whether it violated his Go mantra when he saw a manservant approach Pei Xian and whisper a few words into his ear. Pei Xian nodded slightly and coughed lightly, and the hall fell silent instantly. Pei Xian said to Zheng Jingshan with an extremely respectful manner, "Fellow Daoist Zheng, my family disciples are all here. Please let us know anything that you need." Zheng Jingshan opened his eyes expressionlessly. He casually swept his gaze across everyone and said indifferently, "Our sex trader, Wu Tingshi, has recently escaped to Yuanlao Mountain. His whereabouts are unknown. All of you are to enter the mountain to find him. As long as you find any trace of Wu Tingshi, you will be rewarded with 50 bone tempering pills. If there are no questions, you can set off immediately." The disciples of the Pei family had different expressions when they heard this. They subconsciously looked at the family head, the eldest son, and the elders. Pei Xian looked troubled as he cleared his throat. "Fellow Daoist Zheng, Wu Tingshi was once a disciple of your esteemed sect and was also the personal disciple of Elder Luo. I heard that his cultivation level had reached the 7th stage of Qi refinement, and my family's disciples are insignificant in comparison. This, rest assured," Zheng Jingshan said calmly. "Wu Tingshi is seriously injured. His cultivation level is less than 1/10th. Even a cultivator who has just entered the path of Tao can take him down. He is already a stray dog and won't dare to show his face." Pei Xian heaved a sigh of relief and looked around the hall. "Is that clear? Whoever dares to be negligent and spoil Daoist Zheng's plans, don't blame me for being merciless." With that, he formed a series of hand seals, and a figure appeared in the hall. It was a sinister-looking man with cold eyes. He introduced, "This is the traitor of our holy sect, Wu Tingshi. If you find any traces of him, send the clan's distress signal without delay. Fellow Daoist Zheng will rush over and capture him." The group of Pei family disciples said in unison, "We will obey the family head's orders." Pei Xian nodded. "Aren't you setting off?" Seeing that the others were raring to go and began leaving, Pei Ling hurriedly pretended to be rushing and joined the crowd. Then, he walked to the front of the crowd quietly. He had already thought it through. Once they left the city, everyone would head for Yuanlao Mountain. It would be his chance to leave secretly and flee as far away as possible. Anyway, he had already brought along all the important things and could escape at any time. For now, Jingshan would not know that someone had broken into his room and stolen something. When he went back to take a look later, Pei Ling would definitely die. After watching the numerous Pei family disciples leave, Pei Xian said to Jingshan with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Zheng, my residence has received some spiritual tea recently. I wonder if you have any interest in tasting it." "No need." Jingshan stood up and said coldly, "I have to return to the Jade Parasol compound. I will accept your kindness later." He hurriedly arrived at the Jade Parasol compound, but he did not return to the room he was staying in. Instead, he went to a more concealed temple at the back. The temple looked elegant. There was a series of wind chimes hanging under the roof that swayed gently in the wind, complementing the low eaves and the beautiful bamboo around it, making it a pleasant view. However, if anyone took a closer look, they would find that the wind chimes were formed by pieces of skull. Countless illusory human faces twisted and struggled, letting out silent roars. Although Jingshan was already in the foundation establishment stage, he could not help but feel dizzy when he looked at it accidentally. He hurriedly steeled his mind and turned his gaze to the ground. He bowed respectfully outside the door of the temple. Before he could speak, a cold voice sounded from inside. "Have you found him? Senior sister, we have already confirmed that Wu Tingxi has fled to Yuanlao Mountain. Elder Luo's other disciples have all been executed. The Six Desires secret manual must be in his hands," Jingshan hurriedly said. "I have already ordered the Pei family to, scum." He was interrupted before he could finish speaking. The person in the room berated coldly, "I don't have so much time to waste here. Don't stay idle either, so you better join the search. If I don't see the Six Desires secret manual in 3 days, I'll extract your soul for weapon refinery." Jingshan's expression changed drastically. He immediately knelt down. "Yes." After a moment, seeing there were no more instructions, he stood up and left carefully. When he got outside, he felt that his back was covered in a cold sweat. He turned his head to look at his room and hesitated for a moment. Soon, he did not dare delay any further. He did not even inform the Pei family before leaving in a hurry and heading for Yuanlao Mountain. At the same time, Pei Ling took the opportunity while the main group was passing through a forest to make his escape. Yuanlao Mountain was north of Deer Spring City. He walked out of the forest and headed south. It was a vast wilderness. Passing through it led to the official road that led to several other cities. He had already thought it through. He would first go to the nearest city. If he was not caught after he arrived, he would disguise himself and quickly find a traveling team on a long journey to blend in, traveling as far as he could. Although the bone forging art did not emphasize speed, after the completion of the iron bone, his body was filled with strength, and his steps were naturally much faster than before. Pei Ling was afraid that Jingshan had already discovered the scene in the Jade Parasol compound, so he did not dare to be negligent. He traveled for more than 2 hours in one go. When he saw that there was no one around, he heaved a sigh of relief. Soon, however, he felt that something was amiss. Someone was watching him. Chapter 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. One management a day keeps the demon path away. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Who is it? Jingshan. No, it couldn't be him. He's a domineering person. If he had caught up, he would have appeared and attacked directly by now, not hiding in the dark. As for the others, the rest of the Pei family are probably focused on getting the 50 bone tempering pills promised by Jingshan and not looking for me immediately. At first, Pei Ling wondered if he was hallucinating from being too nervous. But soon, his expression changed. He sensed that the eyes staring at him were increasing. The initially faint glances rapidly turned into gazes that were focused on him from all directions. This feeling. Pei Ling immediately thought of the screen in Zheng Jingshan's room. His heart sank as he looked around alertly, only to find nothing. However, that feeling of being watched became more and more obvious. He could even feel that he was surrounded as if something was encroaching gradually from all directions. Pei Ling's expression was ashen. His current cultivation was too low, and he did not have enough experience on how to deal with this situation. After thinking quickly, he decided to continue walking. After all, going back was a dead end. If it was just this feeling of being watched, he could just pretend that nothing had happened. However, as Pei Ling continued running for a moment, he suddenly felt cold. It was something that had never happened since he had opened up his qi and stepped onto the path of cultivation. Especially when he was still running at full speed, how could he feel cold when his body should be heated up? Pei Ling knew that the situation was grave, but he was helpless. Soon, a cold feeling spread through his body. He felt as if he had fallen into an icehouse, and even his consciousness felt heavy. Where's the problem? Pei Ling knew that he could not let this go on. He stopped and thought about the entire process today. Something must be wrong with the screen. However, not mentioning Zheng Jingshan had set restrictions for it. Pei Ling had been controlled by the system last night and cultivated openly in front of the screen for a long time. From his return to the courtyard to the main hall, there had been no abnormalities until now. Why now of all times? System, I want to cultivate. Sensing that his train of thought was becoming slower and slower, the sense of danger in Pei Ling's heart soared. He suddenly had an idea and called out in a deep voice, select the bone forging art. Smart duration. 1. Click management. Ding dong, the smart cultivation system is at your service. The system's mechanical voice could be that pleasant to listen to at a time like this. The moment the system took over his body, Pei Ling began to relax. Coldness, dullness, and other symptoms rapidly disappeared. He could not help but heave a sigh of relief. No wonder. He was cultivating in front of the screen for a long time last night. The reason why he did not receive any harm other than the watchful eyes was not that the screen did not attack him at the time, it was because he was cultivating. No, perhaps it was because his body was being operated by the system. No matter what, at least he was safe now. A familiar pain spread throughout his body. While Pei Ling felt relieved, he also hoped he could leave this place as soon as possible. It was a demonic sect, after all, where any disciple's item could be as sinister. After working hard to slack off for so many years, he almost died here. As he cultivated the bone forging art, Pei Ling felt as if his entire body had come alive again. Even the sound of his breaking bones was especially pleasing to hear. But not long after, the system suddenly let out a ding-dong sound and said mechanically, host has suffered a huge loss of blood energy. Continuing to cultivate the bone forging art will result in irreversible damage, ding-dong. You are lacking qi and blood pills. The system will give you 3 qi and blood pills for free. Pei Ling, wait, before he could finish his thought, the system had already controlled his body to stop cultivating. He suddenly stood up, spun his heel, and charged straight for Yuanmu Mountain. Yuanlao Mountain, in a deep underground cave. Cough, with a series of heart-wrenching coughs, a man slumped against the wall spat out a mouthful of black blood. Immediately after, his already weak aura withered again. He breathed heavily a few times as if to muster some strength. Then, he opened a jade bottle with trembling hands and brought the bottle to his lips with difficulty. However, before he could pour out the pills into his mouth, his organs spasmed. The man could not control himself and let out another round of coughing again. As a result, the jade bottle fell to the ground. When he finally calmed down and was about to reach for the bottle, he suddenly froze and looked up at the dark pathway. Before long, a rat flew by. The man looked vigilant as he calmly took out a black pellet. After a while, the surroundings remained quiet. He gradually relaxed and stuffed the pellet back into his sleeve, eyes revealing extreme resentment. Deep sea sect. Heh heh, I didn't expect that I, Wu Tingshi, would actually be reduced to such a state. Even a mere rat can scare me like a frightened bird. He picked up the jade bottle with some difficulty, but he did not consume it immediately. Instead, he rubbed the pellet in his sleeve, his eyes flashing with a sharp glint. He whispered to himself, if Master had succeeded in switching the cultivation technique back then, how could I, a personal disciple, end up like this? It's a pity that I entered the sect too late with limited strength. This is probably the end of the road, or, Wu Tingshi's expression changed irregularly. He sighed and raised the jade bottle. Just as the pills in the bottle were about to slide down, a figure rushed out from the pathway. Holy shit! Pei Ling looked at the weak man in front of him with his mouth agape. Isn't this the traitor they're looking for? The system did not respond. It simply snatched the jade bottle from Wu Tingshi's hand. Immediately, it poured out 3 qi and blood pills, stuffed them all into the mouth, and threw the bottle to one side. Immediately after, the same thing happened as the previous night. The system did not seem to have the intention of leaving as soon as possible as it controlled Pei Ling's body to walk to an empty space not far away and sit cross-legged. Ding dong. Qi and blood pill have been gifted. The system will continue to cultivate for you, seriously. You're still doing this. There was no one in Jing Shan's room the last time, while the latest victim was right in front of him this time, and he stared at Pei Ling with his eyes wide open. Wu Tingshi was shocked at first. After all, he was in a dangerous situation and was extremely vigilant even if a rat passed by. The speed of this person that just arrived was so quick that he did not have time to react. As a result, after his pills were snatched, his first thought was fear and surprise, not anger. But as the system began cultivating, Wu Tingshi discovered that the youth in front of him was only a young cultivator at the 3rd level of the qi refinement stage. After observing for a moment and confirming that he was not mistaken, Wu Tingshi was so mad that he almost died on the spot. His intense emotions affected his injuries again, and he coughed even more violently for a while. Wu Tingshi took a good look at Pei Ling and did not attack immediately. Instead, he coughed as he crawled towards the jade bottle at the side with growing difficulty. System. Can we finish him first before cultivating? Kill him first, quick. I'll give you a 5-star rating after ending him. It's fine if you don't kill him. If we escape now, you will get my 5-star rating too. Pei Ling felt like vomited blood. King retard. Stop cultivating. The system remained oblivious as it focused on managing the cultivation. Therefore, Pei Ling could only watch helplessly as Wu Tingshi finally crawled to the jade bottle after taking 3 breaks. He trembled as he opened the bottle stopper and swallowed the remaining qi and blood pills. After that, Wu Tingshi struggled to sit up. After casting a vicious glance at Pei Ling, he began to cultivate as well. Pei Ling's heart dipped. He could tell that Wu Tingshi was severely injured. Rather than saying that he was cultivating, it was better to say that he was dissolving the medicine to suppress his injuries temporarily. As for what he would do after suppressing his injuries, it should be obvious. A while later, before the system cultivation ended, Wu Tingshi was the first to open his eyes. He gave Pei Ling a sinister smile before he picked up a stone and threw it at him. System. Bang. The next moment, a bump appeared on his head. At the same time, the system sounded, ding dong. An external attack has been detected. This cultivation session is over. Thank you for using the smart cultivation system. You have ascended without any worries with a single click. I look forward to you sharing the cultivation evaluation. If you are satisfied, please give me a 5-star rating. Yes, the system fled. You little kid, I wonder if you're pretending to be or if you're really stupid. After a test, Wu Tingshi sighed in relief and sneered. Anyways, since we're fated to meet, I'll send you on your way today. Before he finished his sentence, a green light flashed on his fingertips suddenly. Chapter 6. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fellow Daoist, I'm actually here to help you. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios System, just you wait. Pei Ling did not have the time to care about the evaluation panel floating in front of him. He hurriedly crossed his arms in front of his chest to protect his vitals. The next moment, a green light flashed and struck Pei Ling's left arm. Pei Ling felt as if he was hit by a speeding truck. A sharp pain came from his left arm as his body flew off uncontrollably. Bang! Pei Ling slammed into the stone wall in the cave without any strength to hit back, and the entire stone wall caved in. Ugh, he felt a sweetness in his throat and couldn't help but spit out a large mouthful of blood. Every part of his body was in pain, and it was as if his organs had shifted. If not for the fact that he had cultivated the bone-forging art for a long time, which greatly increased his endurance for pain, he would have probably fainted on the spot. Cough cough cough. Not dead. Cough cough cough. Seeing Pei Ling's miserable state, Wu Tingshi's expression changed. He coughed violently as he sized up Pei Ling in surprise. Something was wrong with this kid. Although he was seriously injured, he was the disciple of an elder in the Deep Sea sect after all. He was at the late stage of qi refinement, and his cultivation level was not comparable to ordinary cultivators of the same age. Even if Wu Tingshi used a weaker version of the 5-poison finger, facing a cultivator of the 3rd level qi refinement in a small place like Deer Spring City, he should still be able to penetrate through his arms, straight through his heart, and kill Pei Ling in one hit. At the moment, Pei Ling seemed to be in a tragic state. Upon closer inspection, the main injury was that his left arm, which was in the front, had a large hole burnt through by the toxic poison, revealing some bones. The other areas looked terrifying, but they were not life-threatening. BL.net. Wu Tingshi seemed to have thought of something as a light purple flashed across his eyes. He focused his eyes to the limit and examined the exposed bone. It caused his originally pale face to turn red quickly as blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth. However, he couldn't care less at the moment. Instead, he cried out in surprise, "Supreme! Great iron bone." The bone forging art originated from the Deep Sea sect. To someone like him, who had once been the disciple of an elder of the Deep Sea sect, he was naturally not a stranger. However, there was one thing that even the Pei family did not know. It was that the iron bones, essence bones, and jade bones cultivated from the bone forging art were divided into grades. Iron bones consisted of inferior-grade iron bones, middle-grade iron bones, superior-grade iron bones, and supreme-grade iron bones. Most itinerant cultivators could only cultivate inferior-grade iron bones. A small number of itinerant cultivators with outstanding talent were able to cultivate middle-grade iron bones. As long as there were no problems with their background and they were not too old, these people would be directly accepted into the outer sect by the Deep Sea sect once discovered. As for superior-grade iron bones, only the disciples of the Deep Sea sect with abundant resources and teachers' guidance could cultivate it. As for the supreme-grade iron bone, it was the rarest of all. Only a few with rare constitutions or those who had accidentally swallowed related treasures could cultivate it. Regardless of which type, it meant that once he entered the Deep Sea sect, he would become the key focus with a good chance of entering the inner sect. Cough, 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 ahem. Wu Tingshi coughed violently again as he looked at Pei Ling with a complicated gaze. If his master were still here and he encountered Pei Ling, he would most likely choose to bring him back to the Deep Sea sect and become his junior brother. After all, although a junior brother with extraordinary talent or luck would bring away the attention and resources from the master, it would strengthen his faction. In the long run, the benefits would be greater. But now, he thought for a moment and said suddenly, "Ahem, your supreme-grade iron bone, how did you cultivate it? Pei Ling slid down from the stone wall. His first thought was to escape. However, just as he wanted to turn over and stand up, he felt dizzy and had no choice but to lie on the ground. Only then did he realize that every move he made required a lot of energy, and he could not even stand up. Hearing this, Pei Ling was first startled. Supreme-grade iron bone. What supreme-grade iron bone? However, he quickly came to his senses. Whatever, the most important thing now is to stabilize the other party and not kill him immediately. Fellow Daoist, we don't know each other. I did take your qi and blood pill just now, but you've already punished me. Now that we don't owe each other anything, why don't we shake hands, make peace, and we'll go our separate ways? Pei Ling said weakly. If you're interested in my cultivation technique, I can consider exchanging it with you. He called out to the system in his mind, System. Can you change the bone forging art that he can't tell from the real one? And that it would cause him to immediately suffer from qi deviation once he cultivates it. The system replied, Ding, dong. The smart cultivation system is at your service. Host, please choose the length of the time and click on the one-click management. The system will automatically cultivate for you immediately. One-click management, no more worries in your cultivation, fulfilling your dream of ascension. Pei Ling felt like spitting out a mouthful of blood. I knew that I couldn't count on you. He was thinking about whether to use some of the ancient texts from his previous life to disguise himself and delay time when he heard Wu Tingshi sneer. Stop pretending. You cultivate the bone forging art, and if you're not a member of the Deep Sea sect, then you must be an external disciple of the Deep Sea sect. If I'm not wrong, the wanted poster of the Deep Sea sect is nearby. Since you've chased me into the mountain, how could you not recognize me? Then what does fellow Daoist want to do later? Pei Ling frowned. It was not easy to fool a disciple from a demonic sect. After lying down for a while, he had already gradually recovered some strength and could probably barely stand up. However, it was still difficult to escape. He had to buy more time. Pei Ling thought of something and said, Actually, you are mistaken. Although Zheng Jingshan of the Deep Sea sect did instruct the disciples of my Pei family to search the entire mountain for you, I'm the only one who doesn't wish to reveal your traces. Instead, I earnestly want you to escape. Wu Tingshi sneered, clearly not believing him at all. Pei Ling then said, Fellow Daoist, do you know that Zheng Jingshan has a screen? It might look ordinary, but there are more than 100 beauties in it, the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting. Before Pei Ling could finish, Wu Tingshi had already blurted out a name. He asked suspiciously, How did you know? No, wait, if you've seen it before, how aren't you dead yet? Pei Ling's heart stuttered. It seemed that the screen was more troublesome than he had imagined. At the moment, he did not have the time to think too much. He hurriedly said, I'm a son of the Pei branch family in Deer Spring City. As my mother died early, over the years, I have been suppressed by my stepmother and am penniless. Not long ago, Zheng Jingshan was invited by the family's eldest son to the guest courtyard of the Pei family. He is wealthy and cannot be compared to the Pei family. I heard from the manservant that he is always busy every other day and is not in the residence. Thus, I could enter his room to take a look. Upon hearing this, Wu Tingshi looked at him strangely. You, a small cultivator at the third level of qi refinement from a remote village, would dare to steal Zheng Jingshan's things. Wu Tingshi was puzzled for a moment. Are the cultivators outside actually that ferocious? Compared to an unknowing Zheng Jingshan to the theft of his residence, he strangely felt that it was not as much of a big deal to have 3 qi and blood pills stolen from him right under his eyes anymore. Ahem. Anyways, Zheng Jingshan has not found out until now since he is hunting you down. Pei Ling coughed dryly. Therefore, I hope that you are safe and can even escape now. After all, only when you're alive and well, will it help me delay Zheng Jingshan and give me more opportunities and time to escape far away. He said in his most sincere tone, fellow Taoist, I'm actually here to help you. Wu Tingshi looked up and laughed. Help me? How? You snatched my qi and blood pills the moment we met and made me crawl like a worm for half a day to pick up my medicine bottle. Fellow Taoist, these are small matters, Pei Ling said seriously. At the time, I was harmed by the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting. If I didn't have the qi and blood pill, I'm afraid that I would have met with misfortune. In that case, fellow Taoist, you are here alone and unfamiliar with the place. Sooner or later, you will be discovered by the disciples of my Pei family and get reported to Jingshan. Would that be a happy ending, fellow Taoist? Now, you and I are on the same boat. We should cooperate and not be so calculative. My breathing is much smoother now. I should be able to get up and take a few steps. I wonder how long I can last. Pei Ling hesitated for a moment before stealing a glance at Wu Tingshi. Seeing that the other party was deep in thought and did not have any intention of attacking, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief and decided to continue waiting for a while to prevent any more twists and turns during his escape. You have a sharp tongue. You do have a point. It is a matter of life and death, and everything else is trivial. Wu Tingshi pondered for a moment and smiled coldly. Suddenly, he said, do you know why Jingshan wants to kill me? Chapter 7. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Is there really such a good thing? Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Pei Ling could not wait to chat longer as he hurriedly replied, I would appreciate further details. Cough, 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 Wu Tingshi coughed again. Taking the opportunity to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, he swallowed another pill and continued without batting an eye, my master is an outer sect elder of the Deep Sea sect, a core formation cultivator. In the outer sect of the Deep Sea sect, he used to be free and unfettered. It was just that my master's aspiration was firm and he wanted to break through to the nascent soul realm. Not long ago, my master coincidentally obtained a high-grade cultivation technique and planned to switch cultivation. It was supposed to be a good thing. As he spoke up to this point, his expression darkened. I didn't expect that the third disciple, Lu Xian, that master took in was actually a spy planted by his enemy. He took the opportunity while master was in a weakened state to leak the news secretly. As a result, my master was ambushed in his seclusion spot and died on the spot. What followed was logical. The Deep Sea sect had always believed in the law of the jungle. If that elder Luo was still alive and had successfully changed his cultivation, then everyone in his faction would naturally be happy. However, when he died, his disciples had not yet matured and were not powerful to protect the interests of his faction. Therefore, the other outer sect elders of the Deep Sea sect, and even inner sect disciples like Jingshan, flocked to snatch the resources. Wu Tingshi was the latest disciple of Elder Luo and his strength was the lowest. He did not even know about his master's seclusion. Only when Elder Luo died and everyone attacked did his senior brother bring him away in a panic. It was because he was the weakest that everyone neglected him and helped him to survive until now. I didn't expect that the Deep Sea sect that called itself the Holy Sect to be so despicable in private. Pei Ling said righteously, thank you for telling me, fellow Taoist Wu. I had originally looked forward to the Deep Sea sect, but now it seems that it's no different from a tiger's den or a wolf's den. It's really despicable to treat an elder like this. These words were spoken sincerely. After all, even an outer sect elder of the Deep Sea sect was still living in danger. The demonic sect was the demonic sect after all. The damned place was too unfriendly to people of the Go Dao. His only desire was to escape immediately. However, before he did that, there was something he needed to clarify. Oh yes, may I ask about the problem with that painting? Have you ever consumed any heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the past? Wu Tingshi asked instead of answering. Or is there something special about your body? An idea popped up in Pei Ling's mind. I've been suppressed by my stepmother since I was a child. How could I get my hands on any treasure? As for how my body is different from ordinary people, I wonder which part of it do you mean? Hearing his words, Wu Tingshi thought that this boy must have a unique physique. Jealousy flashed through his heart as he said calmly, that's hard to say. After all, fate is magical. There are as many kinds of special physiques as the Ganges River sands. Even the records of the deep sea sect might not be complete. I believe that your physique is somewhat abnormal after seeing your humble background and that you're in such a dire situation prompting you to steal from Jing Shan. On top of that, you can even cultivate supreme-grade iron bones. Otherwise, you would not have been able to withstand the suction of the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting. He explained, that painting was obtained by chance from some ruin when Jing Shan was on a mission. It's said to be rather strange, and there are even late-stage Foundation establishment disciples who got fooled. As for the details, Jing Shan kept it a secret, and I'm not too sure. However, with your cultivation, since you've seen that painting yourself, you must have been remembered and targeted by it. Generally speaking, unless Jing Shan takes the initiative to undo it for you, since the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting has remembered your aura, it will follow you like a shadow and suck your essence, breath, and spirit. Anyway, I have never heard of a cultivator in the Qi refinement stage who could survive after being targeted by the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting. Seeing Pei Ling's gloomy expression, Wu Tingshi thought of something and said, no wait, there's one. He's also a disciple of the Deep Sea sect. He fled over 5,000 kilometers away in a short period of time and stayed outside for a year and a half before returning to the sect. By then, the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting could no longer tolerate its hunger. So it turned to its next target and gave up on that person. Thank you, fellow Taoist Wu. Pei Ling was skeptical of his words. He was deep in thought when he suddenly saw Wu Tingshi speak with a faint smile, kid. Since you and I are going to avoid Jing Shan, how about I make a deal with you? Pei Ling was vigilant, but he played along. I wonder what deal you are talking about. This is the cultivation technique that my master had planned on switching cultivation paths. Wu Tingshi took out a jade slip and waved it in front of Pei Ling. He said, it's also because the Heavy Sea sect is relentlessly pursuing a Qi refinement cultivator like me. To be honest, I'm already at the end of my rope. If you can help me escape from Yuanlao Mountain, I'll get this cultivation technique copied for you. How about it? Ding. Dong. Pei Ling was about to answer when a system notification suddenly sounded in his mind. I have discovered an unknown cultivation technique in the outside world. The system is recording, damn. Is there really such a good thing? Pei Ling was overjoyed. As he was afraid that the system would not be able to record it after Wu Tingshi took it back, he hurriedly said, so this is the jade slip. This is actually the first time I've seen one. Taoist Wu, may I ask how such jade slips are used? Wu Tingshi was slightly startled as an unnatural expression flashed across his face. When you and I manage to escape, I'll teach you naturally. Why? You don't believe me? No, no, no. Fellow Taoist Wu, you are mistaken. Pei Ling racked his brains to stall for time. However, I have never seen a jade slip before. Oh right, fellow Taoist Wu, which direction do you think is suitable for us to head in after we escape from Primal Mountain? To be honest, I have never left Deer Spring City in my life. If I need to flee far away, I really don't know where to go. Seeing that he did not pursue the matter about the jade slip, Wu Tingshi secretly sighed in relief. As he kept the jade slip, he said casually, let's head west first. When the time comes, I will tell you then. Pei Ling watched his movements and was simply burning with anxiety. He was just about to find an excuse to ask him to slowly put away the jade slip when the system sounded. Ding dong. The unknown cultivation method has been recorded. Host, please name it. Just call it the nameless divine art. Pei Ling was in no mood to name it. He dismissed the system quickly and said to Wu Tingshi, alright, I'm familiar with this mountain. Fellow Daoist Wu, don't worry. I will get you out safely for sure. Wu Tingshi smiled slightly and said weakly, then you'd better be quick. Otherwise, it'll be hard to say when Jing Shan arrives in person. Right, my injuries are heavy now, I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you to help me up. Don't worry, fellow Daoist Wu. Pei Ling happened to have recovered some strength. He struggled to get up slowly and said while panting, we're all on the same boat now. Fellow Daoist Wu's business is my business. He stood up confidently and loosened up his limbs. He felt that there was no problem for him in the short term. Without hesitation, he turned around and ran. A tinge of viciousness and surprise flashed across Wu Tingshi's face. He hurriedly withdrew the 5-poison finger that he had been accumulating strength for and stood up to chase after Pei Ling. Pei Ling ran step by step in the unfamiliar dark pathway, praying silently that Wu Tingshi's injuries were more serious than his or that he was afraid of Jingshan and did not dare to chase after him. However, things did not go according to his wishes. After a while, he heard quickened footsteps behind him. Fellow Daoist Wu, I'm going to find someone to save you. Since you're so badly injured, it's better if you don't move. His gaze flashed as he turned around and shouted, running even faster. Wu Tingshi sneered. Do I look like a fool? What a little brat. So despicable and vicious at such a young age. No wonder you're a lackey of the Deep Sea sect. Pei Ling did not say anything else and continued to run. However, a moment later, he discovered that there was a fork in the road up ahead. At the critical moment, Pei Ling did not have the time to think. He randomly picked the side that seemed to have wind and ran in. However, not long after he entered, he heard Wu Tingshi's cold laughter from behind. He quickly understood the reason. Not long after he ran through this path, there was a mountain wall in front of him. The wind that he felt previously was blowing from several holes that were not much bigger than a fist. It was a dead end. Pei Ling's heart sank. He quickly turned around and saw Wu Tingshi chasing up to him with a mocking expression. Green light sparkled on his fingers as he grinned. Come on. Keep running. Why aren't you running anymore? Before Pei Ling could answer, Wu Tingshi had already pointed at his glabella. Chapter 8 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fairyly Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios Pei Ling's hair stood on end. However, at the critical moment, it stimulated the innate potential inside him. He hurriedly rolled on the ground and avoided this strike at the last moment. Wu Tingshi could not help but be flabbergasted when his killing shot missed. However, he was from a large sect after all, and his reaction was extremely quick. He originally planned to stand with his hands behind his back to mock Pei Ling's corpse, but he quickly adjusted his posture. As his feet stomped the ground, he took off. The next moment, his fist landed heavily on Pei Ling's face. Bam! Pei Ling felt his head spinning from this punch, but he was elated. He was only at the 3rd level of Qi refinement and had not learned any offensive techniques at all. If Wu Tingshi continued to use the 5-poison finger, then even if he dodged the attack just now, he would still die without a doubt. Now that Wu Tingshi was only using fists and feet, it meant that his injuries were severe, and he was not better off compared to Pei Ling. He immediately circled his legs around his opponent's body to prevent him from pulling away to use other means. At the same time, he raised his right fist and punched his opponent's chin. This was the full attack of a 3rd stage Qi refinement supreme grade iron bone cultivator. In the past, Wu Tingshi would not have cared about such an attack at all. However, his injuries were too severe. Not only was he unable to avoid it, but his face was also slapped to the side while a faint scent of blood rose from his mouth. Bastard! Wu Tingshi's eyes widened in rage as he suddenly threw a headbutt at Pei Ling's head. Pei Ling instantly felt a bout of dizziness as Wu Tingshi took the opportunity to get up, grab a rock by the side, and smash it at Pei Ling without any explanation. Pei Ling heard that the wind was not right and hurriedly rolled to the side. At the same time, he picked up a handful of dust from the ground and threw it towards Wu Tingshi. Wu Tingshi subconsciously closed his eyes, but Pei Ling grabbed him by the waist and threw him to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Wu Tingshi's internal organs were already severely injured, but with the addition of Pei Ling's pressure, blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth again. He knew that something was wrong. While they were fighting, his fingers fumbled around in his sleeve a few times and nimbly took out the pellet that he had held in his hand when the rat passed by. The only issue here was that the pellet was left behind by his master along with the cultivation technique Jade Slip. It was also the final trump card of his master's line. It was already wasteful to use it against Jing Shan, and Pei Ling was only a piece of trash at the third level of qi refinement. Wu Tingshi only hesitated for a moment before he suddenly felt pain in his wrist. It was Pei Ling who had sensed an opportunity and grabbed his wrist to smash it against the rock beside him several times, risking it all. Wu Tingshi felt the pain as the pellet in his hand fell to the ground uncontrollably. He was shocked, angry, and regretful, losing his spirit. On the other hand, Pei Ling's ferocious nature was triggered, and he became more and more valiant the more he fought. In an instant, the difference between them was apparent, and Pei Ling seized the opportunity to smash him to the ground with a rock. Worried that this fellow from the sinister sect would feign death and launch a sneak attack, even if Pei Ling felt that the man was no longer moving, he did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. He continued to smash more than 10 stones and confirmed that Wu Tingshi's head was already crushed on the ground and that his corpse had turned cold. Only then did he stop while panting, and he wiped his face with lingering fear. He had won. He had killed Wu Tingshi. He was still in danger and Pei Ling only rejoiced for a moment before he hurriedly got up. He did not care about his pain as he first gave the system a 1-star rating before looting Wu Tingshi. Thinking of the pellet that this person could not bear to use just now, he also found it nearby and kept it in his pocket. In the end, he destroyed the evidence and endured his dizziness as he supported himself against the mountain wall and staggered away. Now that Wu Tingshi was no longer obstructing him, Pei Ling spent some time finding a path to the bottom of the mountain through the spider web-like passageway. Thanks to his terrible father and stepmother, he had to enter Yuanlao Mountain to pick herbs and hunt to feed himself since he was a child. He was familiar with the areas outside the depths of Yuanlao Mountain. After finding his direction, he hurriedly got onto a remote path down the mountain. On the way, he also met 1 or 2 Pei clan disciples. Fortunately, they recognized him from the Pei estate's main hall when they received the order. Although Pei Ling seemed to be in a sorry state now, his clansmen did not suspect anything when he said he was attacked by a wild beast. There was even a kind cousin who threw a bottle of styptic powder at him. Pei Ling received it gratefully and excused himself to find a doctor in the city. After leaving Yuanlao Mountain, he recalled that Wu Tingshi had previously told him to head west. He decisively chose to head east. However, before long, Pei Ling sensed that someone was secretly spying on him. To exacerbate the situation, the pain in his left arm gradually disappeared and became numb. There was no one in sight, but eyes on him grew in size. Pei Ling's footsteps became slower and slower, and his face turned livid. He knew that he was in trouble. Not only had the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting come knocking on his door again, but the worst part was also that he was poisoned evidently from the wound he got from Wu Tingshi. Pei Ling searched through the items left behind by Wu Tingshi. Perhaps it was because this fellow had been pursued all the way here, he did not have much medicine left with him. As for the remaining jade bottles, besides the qi and blood pills, he did not know what they were. If this continued, he might not be able to survive even if he used the system to fend off the painting's curse temporarily. Moreover, this retarded system had brought him to steal Jingshan's bone-tempering pill during his first cultivation and provoked the Rakshasa painting. In his second cultivation, it had brought him to snatch Wu Tingxi's blood-chi pill and only barely survived after a desperate struggle. Who knew what kind of situation he would get sent into in the next one? Pei Ling's mind raced as he looked at the pile of Wu Tingxi's belongings in his hand. He looked uncertain for a moment before he gritted his teeth and turned around and walked back towards Deer Spring City. Half a day later, in the Pei estate in Deer Spring City, the head of the Pei family, Pei Xian, looked at the ragged and miserable Pei Ling in front of him in surprise. "You're saying that you found Wu Tingxi? Then why didn't you send out the clan signal?" "Master, I was heavily injured at the time. I was afraid that the signal would attract Wu Tingxi's attention. If that happened, I wouldn't be able to come back." Pei Ling gasped for breath and asked, "Master, may I know where Immortal Master Zheng is? I would like to report to him in person." Pei Xian's gaze flickered as he said, "Thank you for your hard work. Fellow Daoist Zheng isn't in the residence now. How about this? I'll get someone to bring you down to recuperate first. Tell me where Wu Tingxi is located, and I'll let fellow Daoist Zheng know on your behalf." "That place is complicated." Pei Ling refused immediately. He had taken the risk to come back because he wanted to negotiate with Zheng Jingshan in person. How could he let Pei Xian be the middleman? He immediately said, "I'm afraid that even if I tell you, you wouldn't understand. If we delay Immortal Master Zheng's matter, the entire Pei family might not be able to bear the responsibility." Pei Xian's face sank as he glared at Pei Ling. However, seeing that this nephew of the Side family was not afraid and even seemed ready for a life-and-death struggle, he thought about it and switched to a smile. "Fine. However, fellow Daoist Zheng is indeed not in the residence now." Pei Ling became worried when he heard this. "Is Zheng Jingshan at Yuanlao Mountain now?" Indeed, after sending so many disciples of the Pei family to the mountains to search, Zheng Jingshan would be waiting for the signal nearby. It was the easiest way to intercept Wu Tingxi at the fastest speed. What should he do? His situation was already precarious, and he might not have had the time to wait for Zheng Jingshan to return. Just as he was about to ask if the family head had any means to inform Zheng Jingshan immediately, and how long it would take for Zheng Jingshan to return, he heard Pei Xian say, "Let's do it this way. Although fellow Daoist Zheng has gone to Yuanmu Mountain, it's a good thing that Fairy Li is still cultivating in the Jade Parasol compound. I'll bring you to see Fairy Li now." Fairy Li. Pei Ling was startled for a moment before he realized. It should be the disciple of the Deep Sea sect who had come to Deer Spring City with Zheng Jingshan. It was just that this person was too low profile. These days, he had been hearing about Zheng Jingshan's deeds and subconsciously ignored the other disciple. "Master." Pei Ling could not help but ask, "How does this Fairy Li compare to Immortal Master Zheng? If that disciple was just a nobody who could not help him, then it would be useless. Pei Ling, remember this." Unexpectedly, just as his voice fell, Pei Xian's expression suddenly changed as he instructed solemnly, "Although this Fairy Li keeps a low profile, her cultivation level, status, and future are far from what fellow Daoist Zheng can compare to. She is the Deep Sea sect's true inheritor. If nothing goes wrong, she'll be the next saintess of the holy sect. When you meet her later, you must be more respectful than you are to me and fellow Daoist Zheng, understand?" Pei Ling felt a jolt of joy and hurriedly said, "Yes." "And are you sure that you know Wu Tingxi's hiding place and won't let Fairy Li go there for nothing?" Pei Xian seemed to be extremely wary of Fairy Li. He had already walked halfway forward, but he was still worried. He stopped and warned sternly, "This is a serious matter. If Fairy Li thinks that our family is mocking her, it won't be a joke." "Don't worry, Master." Pei Ling hurriedly said. "If I didn't have absolute confidence, how would I dare to lie to you? Besides, I have a favor to ask of the Immortal Master of the Deep Sea sect." Pei Xian gave him a deep look. "Let's go." He quickly led Pei Ling into the Jade Parasol courtyard, but he did not proceed to the upper room in the front. Instead, he took a small path to the back. It was the first time Pei Ling had come to this place. After all, it was a place used to receive important guests. With his status in the family, he had always been told to avoid here. At this moment, he was concerned about his injuries and the upcoming negotiations. He did not have the mood to appreciate the Pei family's painstaking decorations while he secretly clenched the pellet in his palm. After a moment, Pei Xian stopped for a moment and instructed softly, "Don't look up later, don't look especially at the wind chimes in the corner." Only then did he continue forward and arrive in front of a fine temple. He bowed deeply. Pei Xian of the Pei family pays his respects to Fairy Li. Seeing that Pei Ling was rather slow at bowing, he frowned and berated, "Kneel before the fairy." Chapter 9. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A Trap Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Pei Xian only heaved a sigh of relief when Pei Ling knelt without hesitation. At this moment, an icy cold voice with a tinge of anger sounded from the temple. "What's the matter?" Reporting to Fairy Li, Pei Xian hurriedly said. "We understood that you were here cultivating, so we didn't dare disturb you. However, my nephew, Pei Ling, has only just returned from Yuanlao Mountain. He said that he had discovered Wu Tingxi's traces and was afraid of alerting the enemy. He didn't dare to send out the family's signal. He thought that fellow Daoist Cheng was in the manor, Wu Tingxi." Before he could finish his sentence, the door of the Spartan house suddenly opened silently. A figure rushed out in a flash. She was wearing a black dress and black shoes with a veiled hat on her head. A black veil, the same as the hem of her dress, hung down to her chest, obscuring her appearance. When she appeared, Pei Xian had already swiftly lowered his gaze and looked down, not daring to be careless in the slightest. Pei Ling's reaction was slightly slower and he caught a glimpse of her figure. He felt that this woman had a graceful figure, especially her slender waist that could be grabbed with one arm. However, the aura around her was particularly fierce, like an unsheathed sword that was oppressive. Fairy Li stretched out her hand and beckoned. There was a crisp sound of the wind chimes, and the men's minds were in a mess. When they returned to their senses, they saw that the wind chime of a skull was already hanging by her waist. Her curtained hat was tilted slightly. Fairy Li tilted her head and asked, "Where is he?" Pei Xian looked at Pei Ling, who composed himself and clenched the pellet tightly. He said in a deep voice, reporting to Fairy, "Wu Tingxi is already dead." "What?" Pei Xian was startled. Fairy Li did not mind. "Where is the technique?" "Outside the city." Pei Ling felt that this fairy was so imposing that Jing Jingshan could not be compared to her. At least, when he met Jing Jingshan in the main hall of the Pei family, although he was high and mighty, he did not give him any special feeling. However, at this moment, through the veil, he could sense that Fairy Li's gaze was like a bolt of lightning. When she looked over, it was as if Pei Ling was stared at by an extremely terrifying object, causing the hairs on the back of his neck to stand up in horror. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty and forced himself to calm down. He said, "I was fortunate to encounter Wu Tingxi in a cave. At the time, he was already severely injured and on the verge of death. After a desperate struggle, I killed him. I planned to return after retrieving the items, but I was afraid that I would lose them on the way, so I hid them outside the city." Fairy Li did not comment. "What do you want?" Pei Xian was standing behind her. When Pei Ling admitted to killing Wu Tingxi, he was already covered in sweat. Upon hearing this, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief and signaled to Pei Ling to speak for the family. However, Pei Ling had risked his life to return for himself only, so how could he possibly care about Pei Xian? He ignored Pei Xian and said solemnly, "Fairy, please save my life." "Save your life?" Fairy Li sized him up and said casually, "Wu Tingxi's 5-poison finger is truly not something that a person of your cultivation level can withstand." She casually threw a jade bottle over. "There are 3 poison expelling pills in here. Eat them all and meditate for a while. As for the Rakshasa painting, the fairy said calmly, once I retrieve the jade slip and confirm that there are no faults, I will naturally tell that garbage Xing Jingshan about it. Pei Ling caught the jade bottle and poured it into his mouth without waiting for her to finish. He sensed that the poison that had spread to his left shoulder had indeed stopped. He calmed down and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Fairy Li. The jade slip is at the bottom of a small hill outside the city. It would be in a triangular formation of 3 scholar trees." After saying this, he clenched the pellet in his sleeve tightly and held his breath. Fairy Li did not look at him again after he spoke. With a wave of her sleeve, she disappeared in the blink of an eye amidst the crisp ringing of the wind chime. Pei Ling wiped his cold sweat with lingering fear. Fairy Li gave him too much pressure. Although from Wu Tingxi's attitude before his death, the pellet in his hand was most likely his trump card, after personally facing Fairy Li, he was not sure whether this pellet could threaten her. Fortunately, although this fairy was cold and arrogant, she did not have the intention of burning the bridge after crossing the river. This was the most desirable outcome he had hoped for before he returned. From the looks of it, it could be said to be a great fortune amidst misfortune. Pei Ling, what is the meaning of this? Pei Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Fairy Li leave. His expression darkened as he berated, "This is a rare opportunity. Why are you thinking only about yourself instead of the family? Don't forget that the Pei family has raised you all these years." Although Pei Ling had consumed the poison-expelling pills, the unyielding attention in the surrounding air was like maggots latching onto his bones, intensifying every second. How could he be in the mood to talk to the family head? He replied promptly, "Yes, I will always remember the Pei clan's kindness. Therefore, I'm afraid that if I die at a young age, I will not be able to continue serving the family. Please don't worry, master. In a while, when Fairy Li comes back and helps me deal with the painting, I will put in a good word for the family." With that, he cupped his hands to the family head and turned to leave. He hurriedly returned to his residence, his face had already turned pale, and was on the verge of collapse. He forced himself to close the door, and Pei Ling felt that it was getting difficult to think straight. No, he bit the tip of his tongue hard and forced himself to stay awake. If this carries on, I'm afraid I won't be able to last until Fairy Li retrieves the cultivation technique jade slip. The only thing he could do now was to let the system cultivate like before. The problem was that he did not dare to attempt the bone forging arts one-click management anymore. Who knew what the system would steal from Xing Jingshan or Fairy Li with his body this time? These two would be returning to the Jade Parasol compound in a while. When the time came, they would probably see him steal something from their room and still swagger about cultivating on the spot. One could imagine the outcome. System, I want to cultivate. Amid his anxiety, Pei Ling suddenly remembered that he could not only choose the bone forging art now. He hurriedly called out in his mind, select the nameless divine art, then select, temporary cultivation, smart duration, and, one-click management. Ding-dong, the system operated rapidly. The smart cultivation system is at your service. One-click management, smart upgrades. Beginning cultivation now, a thoughtful reminder. During the cultivation period, the host will lose control of the body. Please do not panic. The moment his body was taken over by the system, the invisible eyes from the scarlet bone Rakshasa pattern rapidly disappeared. Pei Ling secretly heaved a sigh of relief, but he still observed the system's actions nervously. The system placed his body in a completely different position from the bone forging art. The spiritual power in his dantian also began to circulate in a new manner. As his cultivation progressed, the effects of the poison-expelling pill that he had taken previously began to show. Pei Ling could feel that the toxicity in his left shoulder was beginning to subside and his senses were recovering. At the same time, outside Deer Spring City, on the small hill by the 3 scholar trees that Pei Ling had mentioned, Fairy Li successfully found the cultivation technique jade slip that Wu Tingxi had left behind. There were still some miscellaneous items with the jade slip, but she did not even take a look at them. Although Luo Qiao's core formation is only low grade, he's been in the core formation stage for many years. He won't make a rookie mistake. There must be something special about this 6 Desires secret manual for him to take the risk to switch cultivation. Fairy Li murmured to herself before putting the jade slip between her eyebrows with great expectations. However, just as the jade slip touched her skin, it suddenly emitted a cold light. Whoosh! Fairy Li reacted quickly and threw the jade slip away. However, before she knew it, the cold light still crashed towards her sea of consciousness at the speed of lightning. Chapter 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The system will give you a DAO partner for free translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios, Luo Qiao. Fairy Li was caught off guard. She felt like her head had been struck heavily, and her mind went blank. Fortunately, the wind chime at her waist rang urgently, forcefully shaking that cold glint out of her sea of consciousness. Fairy Li took the opportunity to stabilize her mind. She swept her gaze around. Although the cold light was forced out, it still floated in the air and lingered around. There was a blurry face in it. Surprisingly, it was Luo Qiao, one of the outer sect elders of the Deep Sea sect who was said to have fallen not long ago. Her face darkened slightly as she shouted, "You still have a divine spirit here." Fairy Li. Luo Qiao's divine soul was protecting the jade slip and did not know the situation in the outside world. He sensed that someone was trying to check on the technique and took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. When he realized that it was Fairy Li, he was shocked. "Who do you think you are to covet the 6 Desires secret manual?" Fairy Li snorted. "Who would find the way to become a nascent soul too much? Cut the crap. Surrender now and I'll give you a quick death." How amusing. Luo Qiao's divine spirit danced in the air as he chuckled. How can a member of the holy sect sit and wait for death? Besides, you have a better future ahead of you, while I'm at my wit's end. Are you really going to take the risk and fight me to the death? How about you spare me and I'll give the cultivation technique to you, Fairy." As he spoke, he rolled up the jade slip and presented it to Fairy Li. Just as Fairy Li's gaze landed on the jade slip, Luo Qiao's expression turned savage. He suddenly looked up and let out a sharp screech. Fairy Li sneered. "I've long been prepared." She had just suffered from her careless mistake once. How could she underestimate her enemy again? At some point, the numerous wind chimes at her waist had already opened their mouths in unison and seemed to let out a silent howl in pain. Luo Qiao's spirit seemed to be slashed by an invisible blade, and the screeching stopped. At the same time, purple light flashed on the tip of Fairy Li's finger, and her spiritual power was like a snake as it jumped into the air to bind Luo Qiao. Spirit binding force. Luo Qiao was from the same sect as her and knew that this magic technique specialized in dealing with the remnant spirits. Even though he was at the core formation realm when he was alive, he instinctively feared the purple light. He changed his plan as he looked at Fairy Li viciously and suddenly split into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and fled in all directions. Fairy Li was not surprised as she shouted, trying to escape. She stretched out her fair, slender, and long fingers, opening them up to the sky before grabbing fiercely. Whoosh! In the next moment, a chilling wind blew while spirit energy was in chaos. The sky in the vicinity darkened as 5 faintly discernible fences stood up with Fairy Li at the center, forming a pentagon. Luo Qiao's divine spirit, which had already scattered and fled into the distance, was forcefully pulled back by some unseen power. He could not help but cry out in shock, "Five-finger dragon prison. You managed to cultivate this divine art." Before Fairy Li could reply, he laughed sinisterly. "Since I must die today, you can forget about getting the 6 Desires secret manual." Before he finished his sentence, his spirit wrapped around the jade slip and became volatile. He was planning to self-destruct. "How dare you? Fairy Lee had a lofty status in the Deep Sea sect and had chased all the way to Deer Springs City for the sake of this cultivation technique that was rumored to be able to change her foundation, break her core and form her nascent soul. How could she tolerate working for nothing? Although she knew that the power of a core formation cultivator's soul's self-destruction was extraordinary, she never thought of turning back. At the same time, the wind chime on her body rang loudly. Layers of complicated patterns surfaced on her fair skin. She reached out her hand to forcefully rip open Luo Qiao's spirit before grabbing the jade slip. Right when she grabbed the jade slip, Luo Qiao's spirit exploded. After a while, the small hill disappeared. There were only 3 holes left at the landmark that Pei Ling had mentioned at the bottom of the hill. The area within a few miles had become cratered, with some areas even revealing damaged rocks. It was sufficient to display the terror of a core formation cultivator's spirit exploding. Cough, 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 Fairy Lee slowly descended from the sky. As soon as she landed, she could not help but cough. Then, she used her sleeve to cover her face as she spat out a mouthful of blood. However, she did not pay too much attention to her injuries at the moment. Luo Qiao had already died and there was nothing that could threaten her in this tiny Deer Springs City, so she hurriedly checked the condition of the jade slip. Despite her best to protect the jade slip, it still cracked. Fairy Lee frowned. With her experience, she knew that it would affect the cultivation technique within. Although it would not be ruined just like that, she had to return to the sect and find someone to repair it before she could obtain the 6 Desires secret manual. Even though it was more troublesome than expected, at least she had achieved her goal. Fairy Lee coughed a few more times and kept the jade slip. Her black veil dress moved slightly, and she disappeared from the spot in the blink of an eye. After a while, Fairy Lee appeared in the courtyard just like how she left. She endured the self-destruction of the soul of a core formation cultivator and rushed back to the Pei residence. Even though she was a top genius disciple in the Deep Sea sect, she could not help but feel weak at the moment. She coughed again as soon as she landed on the ground. With a wave of his hand, she hung the wind chime back on the temple eaves and walked inside quickly. Immediately, the door closed by itself without any wind. In the room, Fairy Lee sat on the bed and swallowed a medicinal pill before circulating her cultivation to treat her injuries. She was in a hurry to stabilize her injuries before returning to the Deep Sea sect to repair the jade slip. She had long forgotten about Pei Ling. After all, he was only a small collateral descendant of the Pei family. Even the Pei family's eldest son, Pei Hongnian, was a dog in front of her. No, he was worse than a dog. After all, only someone like Xing Jingshan was a proper dog. Meanwhile, Pei Hongnian would at most be Zheng Jingshan's dog. As for Pei Ling, in Fairy Lee's opinion, he was not even comparable to Pei Hongnian, so there was nothing worth mentioning about him. Therefore, even if her negligence caused Pei Ling to die under the hands of the Rakshasa painting, it could only be said that it was Pei Ling's fate. What did it have to do with her? At this moment, Pei Ling had also forgotten about Fairy Lee. Just as he was feeling the cultivation of the new cultivation technique, the system suddenly rang. Ding dong. The nameless cultivation method requires dual cultivation. You can only continue cultivating if you have a Tao companion, huh? Ding dong, the system said mechanically. Detected that the host lacks a Tao partner, the system will give you a Tao partner for free. The next moment, Pei Ling watched as his body stopped cultivating. He grabbed the pellet by his side and stood up. Then, he strode over to open the door and rushed out at a speed that far surpassed his current cultivation level. System. Pei Ling was about to explode. He could not help but scream in his mind, "You better stop right now. Do you even F***king know where this is? The women here are either my sisters or my brothers and uncles' wives." Pei Ling finally understood that this retarded system would never rest until he got killed. Just as Pei Ling was racking his brains to think of how to clean up the mess after his family found out, he realized something that terrified him to the point of death. He had arrived at the Jade Parasol compound again. O.org. He entered the compound once again. The system did not pay attention to the upper room and the residence of the maidservants in front of him. Instead, it followed the route that Pei Xian had taken Pei Ling to previously and headed for the backyard. Outside the temple, the wind chime at the eaves rang suddenly. Fairy Li sensed the commotion from inside and frowned slightly. She realized that Pei Ling was running madly towards her. Oh, I almost forgot. Fairy Li realized. She had agreed to resolve the threat of the Scarlet Bone Rakshasa painting for Pei Ling after obtaining the jade slip. However, she forgot about it as she was busy recovering from the explosion. Now that Pei Ling had broken in without any regard for the rules and even slammed on the door, he was probably unable to hold on anymore. At the thought of this, Fairy Li stopped recuperating temporarily and said, however, before she could finish his words, the door to the apartment got kicked open. Right on the heels of that, Pei Ling's eyes were filled with anxiety and anger, but his expression was otherwise calm as he stepped into the room. Fairy Li understood that he was in danger, which explained his disrespectful actions. Just as she was about to berate him, little did she know that the moment Pei Ling entered the room, he would throw a pellet at her door. The pellet exploded into powder in midair, enveloping the entire room instantly. 7 ultimate soul-subduing powder. Fairy Li was shocked. It was the trump card of Luo Qiao's faction. She had thought that it would have been used during the faction's escape, but it had actually fallen into Pei Ling's hands. If it were any other time, such a method would not be able to harm her naturally. However, not long ago, to protect the jade slip containing the 6 Desires secret manual, she had just borne the brunt of Luo Qiao's spirit self-destruction. Her physical body and soul had been severely injured. At this moment, she was at her weakest. She thought that Pei Ling came to seek help, but she could never expect that a mere collateral descendant of the Pei family at the 3rd level of Qi refinement would dare to attack her. Shock and anger flashed through Fairy Li's eyes, but she did not have the chance to say a word before she collapsed.